In this video, I'm going to take a look at how other leading worldviews answer the 5 core questions. And each of the ones that I'm reviewing here, we're going to move through them pretty quickly. I have also included some articles about them, some different writers and Christian organizations and philosophers who give us a perspective on them, and they are linked under this video on the lessons page right in Populi where you access this video. So you'll want to check those out. I think it's worth the 5 or so minutes for each of those articles. I think they'll really inform you and give you just a really good view of these other leading worldviews. The first one is secularism, secular humanism, or naturalism. And when we talk about the 5 core questions, we are talking about the core beliefs or assumptions that a worldview has. And oftentimes, people do not go around thinking that they hold these beliefs unless they've studied them. Many times they are assumptions that a belief system and people have that give them the shape of their view of reality. As we talked about in the beginning of the course, what is a worldview? It's a person's view of reality, and these 5 core questions, again, are a way of solidifying the core beliefs. So in the secularist worldview, the first question, where did everything come from? The answer is very, very known, widely accepted within the secularist view, that everything came from the result of chance, and it is unknown in some kind of accident of nature and the cosmos. And it relates to the unobservable or undiscernible past, in what is called the unknown first cause. What caused the universe to be born? It is unknown, it is chance, and therefore it is viewed as an accident. It is sometimes called everything came from cosmic eruptions and developments that eventually led over billions and billions of years to life as we know it. And so basically, the answer to this core question, really one of the most important that sets the rest in motion, where did everything come from, is an atheistic premise. And the source of truth for secularism is very simply science, or more specifically, empiricism. Beliefs are based only on what can be observed and rationally understood in obvious ways. And because the only thing we can observe and rationally understand as far as proving truth are things in science, science is viewed as the source of information we need to know where everything came from. And since there are things we can't know, it's unknown, it is some kind of chance and accident that we simply don't have a scientific explanation for. The second question, what am I here for? The question of meaning and identity. Secularism, basically because of things having to do with chance and accident, the answer to that question could be said, you are here only for yourself. Fundamentally, at the end of the day, you are here to survive. And really, you are here to save yourself. Whatever meaning you make for yourself is how you find meaning in the secular worldview. You make something of yourself by developing and maximizing your life, and that is what gives you some kind of worth and value. You develop and benefit yourself by developing and benefiting others. Some kind of a mutuality there gives us a purpose in life. You contribute to the advancing of humanity. You find hope in your own ability. Really, at the end of the day, hope is in your own ability to make your life better. Humanist leader Paul Kurtz, one of the authors of the Humanist Manifesto 1 and 2, said this: no deity will save us. We must save ourselves. So in case you thought I was just giving some kind of Christian bias to the answer when I said that fundamentally the answer to the question, what am I here for, is to save yourself. It is the wording and the beliefs, the explicit wording of one of humanism's celebrated authors, Paul Kurtz. No deity will save us. We must save ourselves. We've talked about how each of these worldviews at their core, and in this question, what I'm here for, has at its heart the human desire and longing for love, a sense of belonging and acceptance and love and commitment and safety that comes with love. Secular humanism's answer to our longing for love, the way that Jeff Myers puts it, is this: love and the concepts of love are nothing more than attachments for sex and survival. Love is a complex chemical response instinctively driving us to sex and protection of our offspring due to our evolutionary development. Love is not real. What we really need is true freedom in unrestrained, consensual, sexual expression. That is what love is in the secular humanist worldview in its true form and essence. But when we look at the consequences of this kind of belief system and the lifestyles that follow, we see from the consequences that this is a counterfeit love, as Jeff Myers puts it. We see the world filled with STDs. We see the emotional emptiness that comes with just treating sex as something you can do freely with anyone and consensually. And we see what happens with unrestrained consensual sexual expression in the exploitation of the porn industry, and many other examples that show the secular humanist version of love is a counterfeit love, and therefore it steals away from the foundation of anything that could be called strong in the secular humanist view. Okay, the third question: what is right and wrong in the secular humanist viewpoint? Morality is relative. Moral boundaries are relative to the individual. And one of the underlying beliefs is liberalism. Ethical good is found in liberationist ideology, which is the removal of conservatist restraints. Liberationist ideology is after a removal of conservative restraints, and especially highlighted by secular humanists is the Judeo-Christian traditional restraint. So it is a promotion of individual and moral social freedoms, and we see expressions of this in the West today through things like radical feminism, not feminism as an equality movement, but radical feminism, in things like the gay liberation movement, pluralism, not as a recognition and respect of different beliefs and cultures, but pluralism as a way of saying you are free in your culture and in your locale to do what you want, as long as the laws of your land and so on are accepting. So the accountability, moral and ethical accountability in a secular humanist perspective, we are accountable to a collective societal set of laws decided by a group of authorities or individuals who are given permission to set those laws. But the laws, here is the key, those laws are not absolutes. They are not moral absolutes. Because morality and ethics are relative to the individual, those laws set by that collective are things like concessions, really are just concessions to help a society work together and be able to exist together. And individuals make concessions to that society's laws. There are no moral absolutes in the secular humanist worldview. Religion has no role in morality and ethics in secular humanism. Religion is meaninglessness because morality is relative to the individual and the authority of the individual. And this view is militantly enforced and ideologized in educational systems of the West today. And I'm just going to leave it at that for now. I could go on and on about that, but that is not an overstatement. It is secular humanism, and its relativist view is militantly enforced and ideologized in the educational systems training young people in Western cultures today. Secular humanism and its relativism and its views of right and wrong permeate popular culture in the media scene of our world today and have been recognized as a religion by some of the leading spokespersons recognizing it has all the qualities of an organized religious belief system. And so the fourth question within the secular humanist worldview, the fourth worldview question, what went wrong with the world and how can it be fixed? And this is that pursuit of healing a broken world. Secular humanist perspectives say with humanity there is no inherent problem or internal flaw such as something like sin. People are inherently good in their nature. And what's wrong with the world and humanity, according to secular humanism, is a repression of the individual. It is a lack of individual development, problems with socialization, sophistication, and realization of the true self. And specifically, secular humanism attacks the constraints of traditional beliefs and culture, with religion being one of the major offenders to the secular humanist worldview that is restraining and repressing people's individuality and their self-actualization. So how can it be fixed? Secular humanism would say people must engage in a discovery of their self, of the sciences, better education, politics, and these leading disciplines should be irreligious. It is an agenda of secular humanism to remove religion from these great arenas of society: self and individuality, the sciences, education, and politics. It is a goal of despiritualizing these things, with ultimately the hope that we would end up with the irreligiosity of the masses. So I know I'm throwing some big words out here, but I have these in my notes from teaching here. Okay, so what went wrong with the world? How can it be fixed? Well, religion is one of the main offenders. People need to discover themselves. In the fifth worldview question, where will it all end? According to secular humanism, we are not headed for a predetermined destiny. We are accidents of evolution. Remember the first question? And so history is nothing more than a product of our struggle to survive and be happy. We came from nothing and we are headed back to nothing, to earth and matter without any conscious life. Evolutionary development is the only hope of humanity. We must project that hope into science and technology to help future generations advance beyond where we are today. And that is the great salvation of secular humanism. It is the hope that we can give a better life to future generations. The next leading worldview that I want to examine through the lens of the 5 core questions is postmodernism. You probably hear a lot about postmodernism today, and in postmodernism, everything is post this and post that. Post-Christian, post-industrial, and post so on and so on. The first question, where did everything come from? Postmodernism says, very similar to secular humanism, that we resulted from a godless birth of the universe from an unknown cause, chance, and specifically in the postmodern worldview, the absolute views of religion and science cannot be trusted, and it's better to leave certain things that can't be proven unanswered. To have absolute views about religious ideas having to do with where everything came from, and scientific views about where everything came from should be left alone. And in the postmodern worldview, there are no absolutes. And I forgot to mention, one author, David Noble, said that the postmodern worldview is the anti-worldview worldview, because any kind of totalizing vision for humanity that people would project and say is true for all humanity would be highly offensive to the postmodern mindset. The postmodern mindset has an operating system of belief that says there's no such thing as a worldview, except for, of course, the postmodern view of everything. And so it is a worldview. And that's why we're looking at it, to see how it answers the question. The second question, what am I here for? Just like secular humanism, I am simply, at the end of the day, an accident of evolution. and I find meaning in how I experience my world. Meaning is found through a person's progressive experience in community and through the five senses. We shouldn't look to too much philosophy. The postmodern worldview would say not too much philosophy, because that gets into a lot of totalizing visions and views of things. And I need to find meaning as I explore my world. The postmodern's answer to our longing for love, which is really, again, at the core of that second question, what am I here for? And what is the meaning, the true meaning of my life? The postmodern's answer to longing for love. Concepts of love are nothing but a mask for sexual desire. Postmoderns say we are to seek out sexual experimentation until fulfillment is found. Established morality about sexuality causes guilt, and guilt is bad, and therefore established morality is false. Sexuality should be completely free according to postmodernism. Really, we should forget love and just have sex. And we see this in many of the universities today in Western civilization. We see this kind of moral belief system in how sex is taught and how sex is presented to students. And we have all kinds of stories you probably read in the news before about colleges and universities having students engage in sexual experiments and in different kinds of pornography as a part of their projects and lessons in courses, and all kinds of exposure to sexuality on the campuses of universities today. And the question could be, how could educated, sophisticated people ever do things or think that that's right to do with young people and get away with that in the classroom? Well, the reason is because those universities are rooted in a postmodern worldview and ideology, and the views of love and sex that I just said here are reflected in those kinds of practices. So the third question, what is right and wrong? The question of morality and ethics. Morality and ethics in postmodernism are relative. It is relativistic about ethical matters. There are no absolutes, except that in the postmodern view, the belief that there are no absolutes must be believed absolutely. All claims of Christianity to absolute truth are false, and there are no philosophical absolutes about religious ideas for all mankind. Things such as sin, established morals, and so on must be rejected. That is a specific target of postmodernism, the Christian view of things and views of absolutes. And to do right, we need to engage community to do good and create happiness for all. If we are working towards happiness for others and benefiting others, that is what true good is. And also in the postmodern worldview, government should have major power and influence to enforce and legislate good in the world, to ensure that good is enforced. And so it's a big government view. Okay, the fourth question, what went wrong with the world and how can it be fixed? It's the pursuit of healing a broken world. In postmodernism, universal codes of ethics and religion, which are part of looking to bring a fix to the world, those things are tools that have wreaked havoc in the world. And there is a reflection on history there with some truth to what different ideologies and belief systems have done, even religious belief systems, when they become tools of power in the hands of governments. Universal codes of ethics and religion. From the postmodern mindset, belief in God historically has led to tyranny, hate, and violence, and should be removed from society. And that view of postmodernism is a dogmatic view. The solution to fixing the world is to engage the local community and find local solutions. They are not solutions that should be applied to all from the postmodern view. They are local solutions, and therefore they are local truths that guide a society morally and ethically and politically. Postmodernism believes in the sovereignty of the individual so long as you do not infringe on the sovereignty of another person. In postmodernism, the behavioral quality of tolerance has been changed from a behavior into an ideology of disallowing wrong or belief in the wrongs of the views and ideas and morals of others. So tolerance, which is in reality a quality of behavior, has been changed in postmodernism to an ideological belief system that says you cannot call anyone else's beliefs or morals or ideas wrong. And that is nonsense. And the last question in the postmodern view, where will it all end? The questions of death and ultimate destiny. You are a physical creature, nothing more than that. You do not have a soul or some kind of eternal essence. Death is the end of everything. And what we need, what we need to do as our great aim in human culture is to support the environment to prevent untimely death for the world's populations, especially for the future. And so the great salvation goal, the great quest of postmodernism is to support the environment so that future generations can have a better and a longer and a healthier life than ours. Now, it's worth saying that supporting the environment to enhance the lives of people today and tomorrow is a good thing. But if that is the ultimate goal and the ultimate destiny of human culture, I think anyone that spends time thinking about that will be able to say that is not a satisfying, that does not satisfy the inner human longing when it comes to questions about death and ultimate destiny and purpose for our lives. Okay, and then the last leading worldview in Western civilization I want to examine in this video is the New Spirituality view, or what you may have heard called the New Age view. I grew up hearing it called New Age, and it's often referred to in books as, and experts as the New Spirituality view. It's been called the runaway daughter, by Glenn Sunshine, calls it the runaway daughter of postmodernism, primarily rooted in Eastern religions, mysticisms, and some non-Eastern neo-paganism. New Spirituality rejects, hear this, rejects the materialism and total atheism of secular humanism and postmodernism, and embraces a spiritualism while retaining the individual autonomy of postmodernism. I should probably say that one again. New Spirituality rejects the materialism and total atheism of secular humanism and postmodernism, and embraces a spiritualism while retaining individual autonomy found in secularism and postmodernism. Okay, you might need to rewind and get that one down, because it really shows the difference of the New Spirituality view. The first question of the worldview questions: where did everything come from? In the New Spirituality view, all is one. All matter emanates from immaterial energy in some kind of force, a god or gods, and we are evolving into spiritual beings, eventually separating ourselves from matter. This is opposite the materialist view of secularism, where matter and energy in the natural world are not the prime reality. In the New Spirituality view, prime reality is a universal energy life force connecting everything together. That is prime reality. We are all connected to nature and other living things by this mysterious energy in mystical ways. The source of truth for New Spirituality is the inner discovery of self and one's godness that we share universally with all creatures. And what we need to do is come to a place of heightened consciousness that will allow us to step into a higher reality of this unseen truth of our universal godness that we share with others. And again, this is the New Spirituality view. So that is how they answer the question, where did everything come from? What am I here for? The second question, the deep questions of personal meaning and identity. In New Age movement systems, your self defines reality, and therefore yourself, defines meaning and identity. Self is all that really matters. Self is, in effect, God. Self is the center of everything. New spirituality is different from secular humanism because in secular humanism, there is a lot more of a common view, a commonality where man is the center of everything, humanity, sharing together. New spirituality is very satisfying and appealing to people today because in new spirituality, it is all about developing yourself. And the emphasis is on your responsibility to develop yourself to a place of higher consciousness so that you can attain higher levels of awareness of your inner godness. So rather than man or humanity being the center of everything, self is the center of everything. New spirituality's answer to our longing for love. The universe is love. If we do not feel loved, it is because we are out of touch with our self-power to love. Oneness with the universe through discovery of our spiritual essence will make us attractive and fill us with the sense of being loved. Think loving thoughts and you will find love. And what we often see in many of these New Age, New Spirituality views is that while love is viewed as a mysterious energy that is attained by how we view ourselves, some of the expressions include in that unbounded sexual practices, especially some of the New Spirituality neo-pagan movements that are out there. And I won't take time in this video to get into the details about that. Okay, here is the problem with this view of love, and really the whole New Spirituality view. The problem fundamentally is that truth and experiencing love and finding meaning is dependent on self. And what we find out in life is that self will fail us time and time again. What happens if in our own selves we are in a state, a condition where we are not able to think positive and good thoughts? What happens if we become deeply depressed? What happens to love and meaning then? And when we're entirely dependent on ourselves to discover that we're a part of the universe, if we are not able to discover that, then that means that we are not able to have a sense of experiencing love and meaning and purpose in life. So what I need to do in the New Spirituality view is I need to maintain a higher level of consciousness and distance myself more and more from my humanity so that I can live in this plane of thought. Well, the biblical answer to this problem is that love is not about distancing ourselves from matter and from our humanity. The biblical answer is that love actually took on humanity and came to our humanness and matched our humanness and fallenness and problems to save us. We do not need to escape our humanness. We need to let God redeem it and restore it, which He promises to do. And all the while, He is loving us wholly and unconditionally as we await that day of complete restoration of our being. What self needs is not more of self. What myself and yourself needs is found in someone else. And that someone else is the God-man, the Lord Jesus Christ, who came in humanity to save us and show us what love is. Okay, the third question, what is right and wrong? Morality and ethics. In the New Spirituality view, self is the ultimate source of governance, and self defines good and evil. It is like the ultimate relativism. And good is found in developing self, and as you develop yourself, you will be able to help others develop themselves. This is what good is. Wrong is the opposite of that. It is ignoring the pursuit of self-actualization, and specifically to the New Spirituality views, what often emerges, is a special focus of the wrongness of bringing harm to others and to the environment. The environment is a huge part of the belief system of New Spirituality because of our mystical connection to it, and it's our dependency on it. So it's a big part of the theology, you could say, of New Spirituality. So wrong has to do with bringing harm to others and bringing harm to nature. What went wrong with the world, the fourth question, and how can it be fixed? What is wrong with the world in the New Spirituality view is undeveloped potential of higher consciousness. That's what's wrong with people. Their undeveloped potential of their higher conscious. And what's wrong with the world is the harm we're doing to the environment, which one writer said is, in this worldview, the greatest moral evil. And so the fixes, the saving graces, so to speak, and the things we should give ourselves to are personal growth and self-actualization, which is the highest goal of humanity. And from that you see in our world today the extreme emphasis on self-improvement that dominates media and culture today. And secondly, we should devote ourselves to eco-friendly action and protection of the environment. And this is where concepts like Mother Earth comes from, and eco-spirituality. Mother Earth being that mystical force that is holding nature together and providing our ability to live, and that we are mystically connected to. And so rather than simply acknowledging our dependence on the environment and acknowledging the importance of caring for it, it becomes a major part of the religious belief system of the New Spirituality view. Okay, the last question, and we're finishing up the video here. Where will it all end? Death and ultimate destiny. According to the New Spirituality view, it has to do with the evolution of humanity. And the hope of New Spirituality, the great hope, is that the next stage of evolution for humanity awaits humans rising to a heightened level of consciousness that will lead us to evolve higher to the next level. And when this happens, as more and more people are able to self-actualize and reach higher levels of consciousness, this will usher in a new age of peace and harmony and oneness in the world. And that is where the popular terms name New Age comes from. We are working towards a new age of higher consciousness and oneness. And eventually we will reach a union of energy, or a nirvana, or some kind of universal oneness. And so you see these expressions in the New Spirituality worldview. And I want to just finish by saying it's worth, after reviewing these things, and hopefully you jotted down a few notes, go back and compare them to the way that the Christian worldview answers the 5 core questions, and look at the differences between the two, and then begin thinking about the outcomes of them and how they shape people and how they live their lives. And that will lead us into the next section of the course on morality and ethics. Okay, I hope you have a great day, and I will talk with you soon.